I'm so excited for you to see this next project. I picked up this bowl and pitcher at the thrift store, and I'm just taking it out to spray paint it with the white chalk paint from Rust-Oleum. They didn't go together. The bowl looked like it was homemade by someone, and the pitcher was manufactured, but they were really close with size, everything, so they fit really perfect together. So I knew exactly that I wanted to try this technique. So I was very impatient and tried to cover everything in one coat, which I know I shouldn't, but I had to sand it down and redo it. So take your time. You want to do light coats, and I think this one took like 3 coats after it was all said and done. I put a plastic bag inside of the pitcher and put some painter's tape around to make sure that it didn't get inside. And so now this technique with the tissue paper, I am Mod Podging it to the side of this, and this is my first time doing this, so I shouldn't have used so much Mod Podge. So when you do it, just do a light coat of both under and on top. And the tissue paper technique is from Sandra at Showman's Nest. I'll have a link to one of her videos that she does this technique on a piece of wood, but she also does others with some glass and other different type of things like that. So it's really cool. So then you just cover the top with Mod Podge as well. So like I said, you only want to do, the bare minimum, because afterwards it shows through, your brush strokes and everything. So I kind of had to fight with that. Of course, like I said, it's my first time. But it did end up looking really beautiful. So I'm excited for you to see the end result. You just want to tap down on it so that the tissue lays flat with the Mod Podge. And be careful, because it'll rip very easily. So just kind of tap it and be careful. So here I'm kind of measuring where I wanted to lay them. And I want 3 different ones. And I just cut them out around the flower so that there's no excess tissue paper. And then she has this technique that I just use. It's really awesome. You use your brush that has the Mod Podge on it to pick up your tissue paper and place it where you want it. So that really works really well. And then I just use my fingers to smooth it out and then put a layer of Mod Podge over the top. And then I just made sure that it was not exact, but of almost, kind of where I wanted to do the 3 different placements, and then make sure that it's all aligned really pretty. And the good thing is if something, a little flower or piece of something comes out of place, you can kind of scoot it over, like I was doing with the little screwdriver. And then especially if it's black and white. So you just want to make sure it lays flat on that corner. That's what's nice about the tissue paper, is it's so easy to form to things. And that third one on there. And see how pretty it's turning out? And I'll show you in just a minute how it all turns out. Oh, and after I finished doing all the Mod Podge and let it dry, I put some of this clear, matte clear on it, and it made it, look nice. an item I picked up at the thrift store for $2. It's just one of those vintage bill organizers that you would see in Grandma's house. And I'm just sanding down the letters in the front so that the raised letter doesn't show through the paint. And I was inspired by Savannah with Savvy Crafts with Savannah. She did one similar and distressed it and put some floral arrangements in it, and it turned out super cute. So I thought I'd give my hand a try at it, and I'll put her link to the video that she did down below. And then I see that I have some holes there that I forgot to fill before I started painting, so I just went back in with some plaster, hole filler there, and sanded that down. Of course, dust it off, make sure there's no dust. So I gave this a couple of coats, and this I'm just finishing up the back here. You want to make sure that you get all over all the sides, the back, the bottom. Just make sure you have a good coverage on it, because that is a pretty dark wood. So now I'm doing the front, making sure I have that front covered really well because of those letters. I don't want that to show through at all. And also make sure to get inside, because you'll see through the flowers, so I just made sure I was painting in between there. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. And actually this paint is the same paint that I always use. It's the Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. I love that stuff. Well, it seems like it's taken a while to paint this. And that brush, I actually got that online through Amazon. It's a pretty cool brush, tiny, and yet it's one of the chalk brushes. It works really great. I'll have all the links of everything that I use down below. So after I got a couple of coats on that and let it dry, I sanded it, but I missed getting the video. I don't know what happened, but I missed that showing me sanding everywhere. But I got all of the curved edges and a little bit in the front too, to show the distressing. I didn't want to go too dark with it on like paint or anything. I wanted to show the actual distressing. So now I'm just using the polyacrylic on it. I love that stuff. I love how it feels afterwards, and it protects the chalk paint so that you don't have it flake off or have fingerprints on it. So it's nice to have a nice coat over it. So after I finish this, I decorated it with some cute flowers, and I'll show you at the end. The next one is a the sign that I'm doing with the cutting board. And I'm just sanding down the, I'm trying to get all of the shiny coating that they had on it. It's a pretty old piece, so it was in there really well. So I'm just sanding off all of it to make sure that I get all of that off. And then the edges too, you want to just, once you have the front and the back, you want to get all of the sides of it as well, because you want it to all match. Once I got all that done, now I'm going through that back part and filling in those holes with that same spackling, just enough to fill the holes so that that could be sanded down. So that I didn't get the part where I sanded those down, but I did, and now I am just staining it with some old stain that I had. I don't even remember where I got it from, but it was a really pretty color. It's a walnut, deep walnut, that I wanted a darker stain for this. So I was just using what I had on hand and made sure it was down so that I could get it to work. And now it's just making sure that it's all covered, and even the sides, you want to make sure the sides are done too. See how pretty that color is? So now that I have it all dried, you want to make sure to have it dry overnight, because that stain is really sticky. So now I'm getting the printout that I got online. I just printed out the size I wanted, and I'm measuring where I want it to be, and I'm just taping off the wood so that I can paint that white stripe on it with the white chalk paint. And I just measured to make sure that it's going to fit, you know, where I want on there. And just making sure again, I don't want to mess it up. Oh, and you want to make sure to tape the edge really well and straight. You have to kind of bend the tape to make it work. So I'm putting on a coat here, and then I don't show it, but I did do a second coat on it to give a good coverage. You want to get that side of it as well. And I didn't paint the back, I just wanted the front. But the sides definitely make a finished look. I just want to take a moment to thank you for watching my video, and if you are coming over from the Flippin Friday playlist, welcome, and I hope you enjoy. And if you like farmhouse, country, kind of rustic decor, you're in the right place. And I hope that you will subscribe and like my video. Thank you so much. So now that it's all dried, it takes not very long with the chalk paint to dry. So now I traced this, and I lost the footage, but you use some tracing paper and what is it called? It's the kind that you can copy stuff with. I can't even think. I'm going brain dead. So it's just carbon paper, there you go, carbon paper, and you put your design over the top and trace it with a pen or a pencil, and so that the print will go transfer to the white. And now I'm just using a black paint pen to go over that part that I had traced onto it, and then I'm going through and just filling in the parts that need to be a little thicker there, and just tracing it all through and making it look as nice as I can. And then I'll show the finished product here with the flowers and the bow. It turned out cute.